Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. I am Brett West, along with Rodney over there doing his homework. We're going to be talking about teams from the 80s. And we know there were some great teams. But before we get into that, I want to thank we have a partnership with eMeet. And when we do our live show on Saturday, April 6th, we'll be using 3 of these cameras and through a partnership with them, and we certainly do appreciate it. And there is a video that kind of shows you what kind of powerful punch, Rodney, these little cameras can do. We're actually taping with it, or I am right now, the eMeet. We're doing this live. So, hey, get over there, eMeet.com. Powerful cameras, and we want to thank them so much for the partnership. And we'll be doing a video showing you what these can do. Very nice of the people that eMeet to give us these
that's
cameras to do.
Great support, and it's tremendous, and it looks great. It's too bad we don't have something to photograph in it.
Well, we will on Saturday, April 6th. So, folks, if you're in Hansville, Alabama, on April 6th, these cameras will be in use. There'll be other cameras as well, some other cameras as well. They're taping it all, and we'll, in time, we'll be seeing it right here on Facebook and YouTube. Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Now, Rodney, let's talk. Now we got the meet out of the way, and we talked about that. Let's talk about tag teams of the 80s. If you were to think, and I'm talking about the 1980s, I made a kind of a mistake. I did a little 30-second, 1 minute, and when I went back and looked at it, I forgot to put singles wrestlers of the 1980s. I forgot to put the S in that, and it just said 1980. But what we're talking about in this particular is 1980s. Just the whole 10 years of the 1980s. Who would you think? Number one tag team of the 80s.
Well, that's a hard one because you've got the 80s and you've got to separate them out from the early right at 1980 where you had. You had the Assassins going at that time. You had Dennis Condrey and David Schultz. Then later on, you got Dennis Condrey with Randy Rose in the Continental Southeastern area at the time with Norvell Austin. Tremendous team. You got Pat and Randy Rose, a great other team. You move on up. You've got the Midnight Express, the other Midnight Express with Bobby and Dennis. You got the Rock and Roll Express. You got the Fabulous Ones. And so you got the Road Warriors that really come into their own at that time. As far, I guess, I would just say if you were going to say number one, I'm going to go with Ricky and Robert, Rock and Roll Express. I think they were on a tremendous roll no matter where they went, even in Memphis, to the Mid-South, and then for Crockett, Jimmy Crockett Promotion. So I'm going to go with the Rock and Roll Express as the number one team. Road Warriors, it's not to knock them out, not even to knock out the Midnight Express. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard was another great one. Arn and Ole was a great one. So tremendous tag teams, and this is probably the last time we see tag teams. It's really the feature, a main event, as you would say, was the 80s. By the 90s, tag team wrestling had pretty much had died because everybody decided we're going to go with the Vince McMahon model, and that was a terrible mistake because once you adopted his model, you play his game, and then he's able to change the rules at any time. So, tremendous teams. But I think as far as if you want to talk about a team that's just exclusively for that, I think Ricky and Robert really do. And no matter who they work with, tremendous matches. Where they work with Arn and Tully or against the Midnight Express, tremendous team, no doubt.
When I look at the 1980s, I can kind of see 1980, 81, 82, 83. I was trying to think today, 1980. I was trying to think of a team during that time, and really, I think that I could only think of David Schultz and Dennis Condrey at the time because Ole really wasn't teaming with. I think he was teaming mostly with Stan Hansen. I don't think he was even Ivan Koloff or anything because I think at the time maybe
Yeah,
in the
well,
early
in
1980s.
1980, Ole at one time was teaming with Terry Funk. They were just had done the thing in Atlanta with the in the cage, and so Ole and Terry Funk was a kind of a team. Of course, then Ole was going back and forth to the Carolinas at the same time.
Because you think Georgia didn't have what we would consider great tag teams in the night until the Freebirds, I think, come along.
Well,
Uh,
I thought Jody and his partner at the time, I forgot his name. I thought they
Randy,
were doing a good Randy Colley. I think they were doing a great job. They were they in the same. They moved kind of slower, but you had 1 and 2 that was working at the time. Um, let's see who else. Ivan. You can't put out Ivan and
Alexis
Alexis
Smirnoff.
Smirnoff. They were a great tag team.
And really, Tony Atlas, Kevin Sullivan was pretty good, as her father called him, Kevin.
Calvin Sullivan, yes, yes.
And that was before Kevin Sullivan started doing the low blow so many times during the nights.
And that was in the 80s as well. That was 1980. That happened all in the same year, 1980. Well, I'm sorry, but I left out. Richard's got some good ones here too, but I left out another team. Arn Anderson and Jerry Stubbs was a great team in '84.
Yeah.
You had Jerry Stubbs and the Dirty White Boy, another team. The Nightmares, Ken Wayne and Eddie Davis, all tremendous teams and headliners. There were all main event tag team wrestling. Bob and Brad, another great team. Bob and Brad Armstrong.
I was thinking today, as I was saying, I put together. I really didn't put together. I found a list at some point on some wrestling magazine, wrestling publication, and I wrote it down 3 months ago. I've got just stuff written down, and I did a top 10 list, which is very hard when you're taking 10 years basically and trying to come up with 10. And what happened was at the end of I think it was at the end of 1989, maybe the beginning of 1990, some publication that I wrote it down. This is the list they came up with, and they had the top 10 single wrestlers. They had Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Andre the Giant, Ricky Steamboat. Let's see, Ted DiBiase, Steve Williams, Stan Hansen, Randy Savage. And I think they might have went with those because Andre Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 3, I think it's because they sold out the building. And let's be honest, that's what people came to see. Randy Savage, let's go back to Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, which had probably one of the greatest matches of the 80s of any wrestling group. So – and we know why Stan Hansen was huge in Japan at the time. Packed houses there. So if you were to try to take 10 years and try to get 10 tag teams, then you would have a hard time doing that.
Sure.
Even though I'm pretty sure there is a magazine somewhere that gave the top 10 tag teams of the 1980s.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't seen it yet.
You have to go to almost every territory. At the same time in World Class, you had the Freebirds there. You had the Super Destroyers. You had Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams was a great team. There was a tremendous amount of talent, especially in the early '80s for sure. Between 1980 and 85, tremendous amount of talent. You had the PYT, Coco Ware and Norvell Austin. You just keep naming them. You just go one after another great teams. Ted DiBiase and Steve Dr. Death Williams was another great team. The amount of talent there then at that point, tremendous amount of talent that you could bring in. Oh, there's a baby.
I noticed that she was wanting to tell us the top tag teams. And I believe if I heard it correctly, it was the Moondogs. I believe that's.
According to her, yeah.
I think it was the Moondogs. Jack, what do you think? Top tag teams of the 1980s. Uh, if you think of 10 teams, who comes to mind? The whole 1980s.
I think one of the most dominant tag teams of the 1980s, of course, had to have been the Road Warriors.
Yeah,
And then you have Arn and Tully. So
you
there
got the
was
Rock and Roll Express. I would
yeah.
think the Rock and Roll Express. Did they draw more money than the Road Warriors, or did the Road Warriors draw more money than Rock and Roll Express?
I think long term the Rock and Roll Express probably did.
Rodney, what do you think? Rock and Roll Express draw more money than the Road Warriors?
Um, Possibly. But it would be very close because the Road Warriors did well for, of course, with the National Wrestling. They went to the AWA and did well there. And then later on, of course, they become the Legion of Doom later on. But in 1980s, it'd be close. It certainly would be close.
I have to ask this question about tag teams. Let's talk about the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom. Did the Road Warriors get over as well in the WWF than they did the NWA and AWA?
Is that a question for me?
Well, either one of you, either one. I mean, did they get
No,
over as much?
no,
Why,
no.
why
We
do
have
you
to.
think that was, Jack? I mean, go ahead, Rod.
Oh, Jack's probably going to hit it out of the ballpark right now. Go ahead, Jack. Tell him why.
Well, I just think that Ole understood younger talent during that time a whole lot more than Vern did. So he gave them the push and the run and the opponents that they could get over with.
And for me, you have to remember where they were at. Okay, they do not push. Vince McMahon did not push tag teams. Not to say that he never did. Vince McMahon Sr. did, but Vince McMahon Jr. did not really push tag team. There was not a headlining tag team, I don't believe, ever since Vince McMahon took it. And I'm talking ever. The Hart Foundation never headlined the matches. Always a single. Uh, they headline the big cards. Never a tag team. So it's a difference of concept. You work for Jim Crockett Promotion, you're going to get pushed as a tag team. You'll be in the main event. You'll have the Road Warriors against Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard as the main event. You go to the WWF, and that's not going to be the case because they didn't believe in tag teams and never really tried to, in my opinion. They never
Well,
really tried to pick, even with the ripoff with Axis Smash Demolition, which was a Road Warrior ripoff. Um, it never reached the way that the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, or Von Erichs or anybody else did with tag team wrestling. Just simply didn't because that's not their model. That's not their business model. Never has been.
I was just hearing the ambulance going by, or maybe the police. Could we say Mod Squad was that's in that?
No, no. There was so much potential with them, though. I'm going to say there was a lot of potential with the Mod Squad, but honestly, the name Mod Squad made him a cartoon character. Pretty much, they should have changed the name. They would have been better with going with the, using their real names pretty much. But the Mod Squad itself was a cartoon name and was never going to get over.
The Rockers. Would they be put down as a top tag team in the 80s?
They were, as you would call them, what was it you call the night? They were what are they? Artists, tribute artist to the Rock and Roll Express. Yes, yes. And that's, I mean, I'm sorry, that's just the point. I'm not taking away from their workability, but that's what they are. There's no, they didn't revolutionize anything other than busting up, hotel rooms and seeing what lines they consume. But other than that, they were doing tremendous job, and I'm not taking away from their workability because against Doug Summers and the other guy,
Buddy
Buddy
Rose.
Rose.
Yeah.
That match, those are no better matches. I mean, tremendous matches. But but they were ripoff artists of the Rock and Roll Express.
Uh, there was other the Powers of Pain.
Yes.
Were they even in the top 30 tag teams?
Well, the moment that you mentioned their name, all I said was who. And
But it wasn't their fault.
Honestly,
I mean, they were
and I'll
doing
just
that.
well, another team that I thought was just kind of blasé was Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude. I just thought that was just I mean, I'm like, take them if you want to, fine, but it's just why would you do that? I mean, I understand hiding Manny Fernandez in a team, but not Rick Rude. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, the Monkeys. Not that they would be in a, but they were memorable. Two guys that got beat up every week on television, and they went to their hometown and sold out with the Midnight Express, which is kind of a weird in itself. But they have a name. Probably more. There might be more people know who the Monkeys are, Monkeys, the Monkeys, than a lot of people know who wrestlers are today.
Well,
I mean,
they made a bigger impression, back then.
But there was other.
Honestly, that was a missed opportunity. They could have really done something with them. They could have had somebody put them over, and then after all those losses, they could have put the U.S. tag team titles on them and go for weeks. How long will the Monkeys hold on to the titles and just keep on and on and on? Just keep on.
Because they were Mulkey Mania, if you remember.
It would have worked. It would have worked, and it would be offbeat, different. I would have done it. I would have done it for sure.
Any other tag teams? Let's go through and see what the people have, because we're going to probably miss some. I know we're missing some people. Richard Hood said
Richard's got some good ones.
He said, "Good evening, fellas." Mickey Mayfield said, "Howdy, professors and insiders." Hey, I've actually got something maybe that'll work that I can read this stuff better now. So, good evening, guys. Great to have you back this week. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, we were having some major streaming problems, and I'm not completely settled that we still ain't got any. So we'll just have to see. Hey, Kevin, where are you at?
Check.
Yeah, where is where casino? You in Philadelphia? Gold Moon. I haven't been there in a long time though. Rick Brooks said most will say the Road Warriors are. Of course, I don't agree. Midnight Express was really good. I still say to this day, the Midnight Express was the one drawing the houses in Mid-South.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Because once they were gone, so was the crowd. So you're exactly right, Gordon.
I think they got rid of the wrong people. I think they probably should have got rid of Ricky and Robert, kept them in Express, and let them have a feud. They were just starting one with the Fantastics.
My question is, why get rid of either one of them when they could work with everybody, the same people? DiBiase and Doc, they could have worked with them as well. Then we had the Fantastics, and of course they took the Fantastics with what the big angle that did with the Midnight Express, took that to Dallas and drew with it over there. That was no planning whatsoever. I think that was Watts, in all honesty.
I think he wanted the big boys back.
Yeah. And he got them, and there goes the crowd.
Well, we talk about the Fantastics. See, Fantastics would, they were a great tag team. It wasn't tremendous when they first started.
Well, I think,
man, they got their team. They got their timing together.
And I talked to Bill Dundee about this. A missed opportunity was Midnight Express against the Freebirds. That would have blew the place completely out. With Michael Hayes and Cornette doing all the talking, and it would have been awesome. Especially because the Freebirds, no matter where you went, the people were still hollering "Freebird, Freebird." It was amazing. There was always a group there at the Irish McNeil Boys Club that came with their mask and hollering Freebird through the entire thing. Of course, World Class played there as well. But yeah, that was a total missed opportunity to have a program between the Midnight and the Freebirds in Mid South.
Yeah.
Von Erichs. They would probably be in one of the top.
Sure.
And I guess it would be more the David, Kerry, and Kevin, that group of three. I don't think Lance is going to get put in.
You don't put Lance in there, Brent?
Well, Jack, let me ask you: do you think Lance goes in that?
Who?
All right, Mickey Mainfield says Rocky Road Express, Midnight Express tie for number one. I agree with that, especially Dennis and Bobby. But go back and watch. And Jack, you talked about this. They did a show on I think it was Worldwide or maybe one of those shows, and I think the whole program was the Midnight Express against the Fantastics, wasn't it? Wasn't it the whole?
I believe so.
Hour?
Yeah. It's a tremendous match. Tremendous match. You notice Dusty didn't have him in those matches. I wonder why.
Daniel Lang says a tribute to Virgil. In Memphis, Virgil was known as Soul Train Jones and won the AWA Southern Tag Team titles with who? Number A? Or now I guess that ain't a number, is it?
Number A, yes.
Hey, I hadn't even been drinking. Just think if I was a drinking, what would happen?
Number A.
A is Rocky Johnson. B is Coco Ware. C, Pistol Pez Watley. D, Brickhouse Brown. Everybody, get your in there and tell you who you think. I believe I know, but we'll wait till later on in the show before we even make our predictions there. Y'all wrote that? Yeah, somebody write that down so we remember what these. All right. Mickey Mayfield, Tony Atlas, and Tommy Rich. No, I liked them as a tag team, but I don't know that I'm going to put them in a. Because did they team each other for a long period of time, or was it just a small time frame?
I can't remember being a very long time frame at all.
That was in the time.
Because it would have been sometime.
Where Tommy Rich was teaming with just about everybody, from Wrestling 2 to Dusty to Thunderbolt Patterson. I like Thunderbolt and Tony Atlas as a team. That was a pretty good team, too.
Iceman King Parsons and Pork Chop Cash. Where did they team in the 80s? Was it World Class? I'm not for sure. Richard, let us know where they teamed with.
Well, we lift up the Bruise Brothers. If it wasn't for that accident, we would have seen something unbelievable with Tree Machine, Troy Graham and Pork Chop, because they were on the verge of something big, and then the accident happened, and the rest history.
Hey, and we want to make sure people understand that it is Troy Graham, Dream Machine, and Pork Chop Cash, not Mad Dog Boyd and Pork Chop Cash.
The substitute never works.
I mean, he was the original. Really, Mad Dog Boyd was the original Bruise Brother with Pork Chop Cash, and they did this thing where they went to a like they were having a funeral, like Mad Dog had passed away, and they buried him and everything, and then they got a new one. Have you ever seen that on Memphis television?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then Troy Graham comes around. It's just tremendous stuff. If you haven't watched it, try to find it. It's good stuff. Arn Anderson and Matt Bourne. While they lasted, but didn't Matt Bourne get run out of town or something?
Well, they were working for Ole. Paul Ellering was their manager, and they were a good team for sure.
Now, is that not the reason the Road Warriors became a team? Ain't that the reason they were looking for Ole was looking for a tag team because he thought he had one, and Matt Bourne and Arn Anderson, and Matt Bourne gets run out of Atlanta.
Arn goes to Southeastern.
Yeah.
He's Super Zero. I mean, Olympia. Yeah, terrible. And then later on, he becomes great. Him and Jerry Stubbs, great team.
Jay Youngblood and Ricky
Yeah,
Steamboat,
you can't leave
Jack, you
those
said
out.
you got to see them
I
live
did.
in person, right?
Yeah, yeah, very exciting tag team.
Butch Reed and Sweet Brown Sugar. Now, that was in Championship Wrestling from Florida, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm
Could be
pretty sure
wrong
it
about
is
that.
too.
I could be wrong. Steve Kern and Stan Lane. Jack, do they belong in a? I don't know. I don't know about them.
Nothing against either one of those guys, but when I think of great tag teams, those are not the two I think about.
Rodney, what about you?
Uh, you have to give them credit. They got over tremendous in Memphis, and later on, as I was watching AWA, they actually got over as well there. So yeah, they deserve to be there. They deserve to be there.
I don't know. Would they have got over in Memphis without Jackie Fargo?
No,
Jack, would they've got over without Jackie?
Yeah,
no, that was the rub. Jackie gave it to him.
yeah.
The Samoans.
Yeah.
I forget about them. If I was doing a top 100, Samoans would be way over there because they were more of a brawling type tag team. But boy, when they got in that ring, you believed everything they were doing. All right, let's talk about this just for a second. Mickey Mayfield said, "Congrats, Jack, on your match. Hope you're still not sore." Jack, tell us a little bit about the night and what went on your match.
Hey, it was fun. I'm glad I got a hotel room that night because there was no way I was going to drive the 2.5 hours back to the house, and it took everything I could do to get out of bed Sunday morning. But I feel fine now. No lingering effects. So it was a lot of fun. I was in there with a lot of guys that I really liked, and made me look better than what I really am. But it was good. It was good.
I guess the question everyone has asked is there a second match?
Well, here's the deal. I had put together a nice set of gear. I had ordered brand new boots, um, and the boots didn't come in till yesterday. So I didn't get to wear them. So I can't retire them till I have a match in them. But I'm not having another match till I'm in a lot better shape.
Let's see where we at here. The Fantastics were so underrated. I agree with that. I, we always wanted them to turn heel on the Rock and Roll Express in Mid South. We thought that was some money. Because it fit because we would hear the fans say, "Oh, well, the Fantastics they're gonna get they go in the fashion I think they said they're gonna get screwed because Rock and Roll Express coming back." That's basically what they said.
Yep.
Oh, they won't be able to be in the main events. The Rock and Roll's gonna come in and gonna take their spot, and they should be mad about it.
It was a natural, absolutely a natural. We pushed it, and it's like everything else. It went in one ear out the other.
Hasso is with us. Hasso. Hello, the British Bulldogs. Richard Hood, British Bulldogs. I think they were a good tag team, but didn't they take advantage of people?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Davey Boy Smith did, but I think Dynamite Kid did, didn't he?
Mm. Yeah, Dynamite was not known for taking care of anybody. Of course, really, their backstage stuff kind of overshadowed anything. And now, at the time, of course, you didn't know about all that. And they were an exciting tag team, and I think they probably should be in the conversation. It's an afterthought of looking back and finding out what they were really like, especially Dynamite Kid, that it takes a lot of that luster away.
Hey, if y'all have never heard Jacques Rougeau, tell the story of that. It's amazing. Jacques Rougeau's a great storyteller anyway. He can tell a story unlike another. Go find it. Jacques Rougeau telling the story. And I think he's getting his hair. I mean, it looks like he's getting his hair cut, and the guy's talking to him about it. And the story is just magnificent. Him telling the story. And, Raymond is just as good as a storyteller as Jock is. They can tell some stories. And he tells the story good. He tells the story. And he needed, as he says, he needed to make a comeback. That's true. He didn't need to let him just end it that way. So. And some people don't like his process, but, you got to remember, that's old school. That was old school stuff. Because, Jock and Raymond's father, Jacques Rougeau Sr., comes back from the old days. That's the kind of stuff they would do to you. Rick Martel and Tony Urea, they were a great tag team.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a lot of Richard Hood said the skyscrapers.
What do you have against wrestling, Richard?
I don't know. I don't know that I could. They were big old boys. I have to give them, especially I think it was Mean Mark for a while, right? It was Sid, and then Danny Spivey, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Mean Mark and Danny Spivey first, right?
I believe so. I can't remember really the combination and how it worked out.
And then he goes and leaves, and I know Mark leaves and goes to become the Undertaker, and the rest is history of what he's done in the wrestling business. I'm not going to say that Undertaker would probably ever get into my top 10 matches of all time in any of his matches, but he could tell a story.
Yep.
That's what he was good at, telling a story. It wasn't just, except for that Undertaker versus Undertaker match. I don't know who put that thing together. That thing sucked. It was horrible because there was so much you could have done in that, and it was just anticlimactic at best. They should have done a whole lot more. The build-up was magnificent. It was so good. The Steiners, I can't put the Steiners in any. I'm sorry, I just can't. Because they never cared about getting anybody over.
No.
It was never their purpose. See, you think about Ricky and Robert, what they did to get the Midnight Express over. And then go the other route and see what the Midnight Express did to get the Rock and Roll over. But the Steiners always wanted to kick tail. You think about it, did they ever really sell in a match?
They did with the Nasty Boys.
Well, with the Nasty Boys, probably, because Nasty Boys make them. But other people they took liberties with. I just can't. I can't get. I thought Rick Steiner was great when he was by himself, and he was with the varsity. The varsity was it the varsity club?
Varsity club, yeah.
With Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotundo, which at that time he was Mike Rotundo. At some point they changed the name to Mike Rotunda. I don't know how that. I guess Rotundo is his real name, right? With the O at the end of it.
I believe so.
Maybe he felt like that if he just added an A to it, it would make it feel like it was somebody else. Or it could be that the guy that is doing the typing of the chirons on there didn't know how to spell.
Could have been, because if you look back in Florida, it was Mike Rotunda. But when it gets to U.S. Express, I believe it was Mike Rotunda. And when it gets to there, I'm pretty sure that's the way it was. Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody. I don't think I ever seen them as a tag team. Have y'all ever seen them?
Big time in Japan.
Yeah,
huge in Japan. Stan
y'all
Hansen
seen any matches from that?
Huge in Japan. Period.
Yeah, I mean they were just. I mean they would sell, but they would kill people in the process.
Rick Brooks, I think the AWA was a weak promotion compared to the NWA and WWF. Well, we always did too.
Yeah.
But we told the story. Don't tell Steve-O that. Jeez Louise.
Boy, I've never seen.
Hey, is Steve-O still with us?
Yeah.
He's still alive?
Yeah.
Well, Steve, if you're watching, we're sorry we said that. And Rick apologizes up front for saying that he thought it was a weak promotion. Because I know right now he's slamming his hands and getting all upset, having a hissy fit, as we like to say.
Well, there's a promoter here in Alabama. I don't always agree with the way he does things, but he made a valid point years ago to me that you condition your crowd to the kind of show you have. And AWA didn't really have any competition where they were running. I mean, that was back in the territory days where every area was carved out. So to the fans, that was exciting professional wrestling. Now, once we got to the age where people could see what was going on in Atlanta and what was going on in New York, sure, it paled in comparison. But it worked for a very long time.
Have y'all ever watched some of the Madison Square Garden shows from the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all ever wondered why somebody bought a ticket to see that?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I have. But it's because we were conditioned for a more exciting level of professional wrestling here in the South than what they had up there. What they had worked. They sold out Madison Square Garden. They sold out arenas everywhere constantly, year after year. But it was a different animal.
Yeah. Yeah, because we would watch it and we would, even when we were kids, we'd look at it and go, what did we just see? Because, see, they didn't run weekly, though. So you had to be more exciting, I guess, because you run Augusta every Monday and Tuesday you run Macon, Wednesday Columbus. You run those every week, so you kind of had to be innovative in what you did. And they really didn't have to be, because some of the towns I don't think because didn't they take like the winter months off?
I want to say they did.
And they only like ran like 7 months, and the rest of the time they were off. So it could have been the other way around. They might have took the summer off, not for sure. But I don't think they ran constantly, and I think they might have run some of them towns every 2 months. So they didn't really have to do much except for the television. Hasso said he was partial to Dundee and Lawler.
Yeah.
Great team.
Wayne Ferris and Larry Latham was about the same time too. So yeah, they were tremendous team.
He said we're able to use their history to make it work. Yes, and they did make that work. Even though sometimes when you listen to Jerry Lawler, sometimes he doesn't really have good things to really say about Bill Dundee.
Well, Dundee's told me, and I've heard him say it in interviews too, is that he and Lawler were never friends. Not really, but they knew they had magic together. So whatever, little issues they had, they just put those to the side and did business.
And man, when they wrestled each other, that's just gold. That was gold. The Fantastics and the Fabulous Ones. I'm gonna put the Fantastics there. Rodney said Fabulous Ones. I think I loved Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. I thought they were so good, so smooth in the ring. And
that first Clash of Champions is on the internet. I think it's on WWE Network too, on Peacock. The Fantastics versus the Midnight Express is probably one of the most exciting tag team matches I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not much for going back and rewatching matches over and over again, but I've seen that thing probably 20 times.
Tremendous match.
Yeah.
Just absolutely tremendous. Mickey Mayfield, Terry Gordy, and Dr. Death Steve Williams. I never saw them. Have y'all seen any of the Japan stuff?
Yeah, I saw a lot of the Japan stuff. And, of course, they had that very limited WCW run, which I don't think did them any favors just by the way they were booked. But yeah, in Japan, they were tremendous.
Richard Hood, the Midnight Express. Hasso! Jim Cornette has said the worst thing to happen to the Monkeys was giving them that win.
Possibly right.
Might be.
Maybe right. Maybe he's right. I don't know.
For the love of God, please Somebody tell me what's causing all this from
It's
Jimmy.
it's Rodney. It's always Rodney.
If there's any heat going on, it's usually by Rodney.
I'm
He
not
likes
sure
to-
what you're talking about.
Rodney, I'm gonna tell you, that Rodney, he like to stir it up.
I don't know what you're talking about. Don't make me have to burst into tears like Cody Rhodes.
Dr. Philbo Grimes, hello, wise ones. Technology, young double J. Technology. Let's see. Is everyone forgetting the Russians?
They were good.
Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Khrushchev, the Russian sympathizer. Somebody asked me one time.
Go ahead.
Somebody asked me one time. They said, "Hey, but that Khrushchev, though, he don't have a, they say he's from Russia, but man, he seemed like he's from North Carolina or something." I said, "Well, he's a Russian sympathizer. He is not actually a Russian." And they didn't ever tell that story when he got to.
Yeah. I was just going to say that Ivan, just about with anybody, was a great tag team.
Yeah.
Donnie Hester said, "I'm with Rodney. The Rock and Roll Express need to be at the top tier of the conversation." Gino Hernandez also, I forget about them. Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams.
Yeah.
They drew some good money with the Von Erichs. I don't know if they drew as much as the Freebirds, but they did well with them. Richard Hood said the Zambui Express. Don't call me Ray.
That's the best. Yeah.
Ray Candy, Kareem Muhammad. Hey, what was Elijah? What was Bad Leroy Brown's name? Elijah something, wasn't it?
Elijah Muhammad, wasn't it? Or
I
something to
believe
that
so.
degree.
Might have been.
Richard
I loved them as that. I thought they could have drew a lot of money with them. In Atlanta, I think they would have been better than the New York Assassins and the New York Dolls and all that they eventually brought there. But Richard Hood said Rocky Johnson's who he's saying. He's saying Rocky Johnson was the partner.
The partner of Virgil, Soul Train James.
Soul Train Jones. But we'll see. We'll see who it is. I'm thinking. I don't know if it's Rocky Johnson. Maybe, but Richard usually knows his stuff. Okay,
Richard knows his stuff. Always. I was going to go with Brickhouse Brown.
Jack, who are you going to go with on this?
I'm leaning towards Brickhouse myself.
I'm thinking Brickhouse Brown as well. Also, last one I promised, Coco Ware and Bobby Eaton could have been legendary.
Yes,
absolutely. They were so good.
Absolutely.
And Bobby, we got to knowing each other really well right before he passed away, and I asked him, what his favorite tag team or who his favorite tag team partner was, and he said Coco. He said, I learned so much from him. He said we gelled better than anybody that I'd ever been in the ring with. And he said Dennis was right there, on that level. But he said nobody could beat Coco as partner.
So good. Yeah, him and Norvell Austin was a good team. Coco Ware and Norvell Austin, the pretty young things. They were good. Again, they missed the boat with those guys. They had somebody to take the Junkyard Dog's place. That was Coco Ware and Norvell Austin because they were over.
Yeah,
they would come out in the place, go nuts. But I think one of the main problems was Bill Watts didn't go to the show, so he did really never see it. Because not in every town, we know this. Not in every town does someone get over. Wrestling too might got over in 6 of Georgia towns, and that 7th, he just never drew any money. For some reason, just people didn't want to watch them there. Tommy Rich might have drew in 6 of the towns in Georgia, but he just couldn't draw any in Rome, Georgia. And that kind of happened in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And so, Dusty Rhodes drew in Atlanta, Georgia. Take him to Knoxville, Tennessee, and he didn't draw.
Yeah.
Well,
he was on
dead.
the card.
Well, it was dead. Knoxville was dead. Anyway.
The Invaders. They were a good tag team. One of them a little on the crazy side.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not the invaders. Is not the people. Wasn't that the people from Puerto Rico?
Yep.
Wasn't that the guy that murdered one of them? At least was the one that murdered
Yes.
Bruiser Brody.
Yep.
Are you making an accusation here tonight, Brent?
I'm not making an accusation. I don't know that he murdered him. I'm just saying that's what,
So what are you trying
someone
to
else
say?
said.
What are you trying to say? There's no statute of limitations for that, by the way.
Well, now they've already had the trial. I don't know.
Oh, this is something new then.
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, you got me confused now, man. I'm thinking maybe it did just happen. But
I'm just messing.
You can't get double jeopardy, can you?
Yes. It depends on in Puerto Rico.
Richard Hood said it was Mid Atlantic, Iceman King Parsons and Pork Chop Cash for a tag team. And maybe they were they tag team champions there? I've got to move this up for some
I'm
reason.
thinking that it's possible. Sure. I'm not sure about that, but it's very possible.
What about the team?
They like double teaming.
Oh man, that's horrible, Sean. That's
a good 2-on-1. They love it. Handicap match. Great.
Richard Hood said, Brent, they tagged the Mid-Atlantic area and had the Mid-Atlantic tag team belts. That's what I thought. Yes, the Bourne incident is what caused the roadies from Hospital. The Bourne incident. Let's see. I'm guessing that's the end. No, the end of it. For some reason, some of them are not coming up. Richard, one of his didn't come up. So, Paul said, didn't Crockett Promotions run a tournament for the NWA tag titles after Stevens and Valentine left New York circa 1980, and I think Ole and Don Morocco teamed up for it.
You got us there, and it's possible. It's possible. But I don't remember that. I remember a tag tournament after Gene, fell ill and was not able to wrestle. I remember that one, but that came in like 83, 82, 83, somewhere like that.
Because he was looking for a partner, and Buzz Sawyer was one of his partners as well.
For Ole and Stan, that's when they did the deal with the Freebirds in Atlanta.
The Kiwis, the Sheep Herders, pre-WWE.
Good stuff.
But you know what? I like the Bushwhackers. I like that gimmick for them.
Yeah.
I thought they were getting older, and I thought it really fit them at the time. They did it tremendously. They take the head and ram it. I thought this was tremendous stuff. And they were getting over.
Yeah.
Daniel says the new Fabulous Ones, Tommy Rich and Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I can give them. I don't think that. And it wasn't their fault. Now, and we're not blaming Tom. I'm not saying anything bad about Tommy Rich or Eddie Gilbert. I just don't think that worked.
Why would you put? I could put Gilbert and Rich together, draw by themselves. Why do the Fabulous One thing? That's just unbelievable. I just couldn't.
Hey, they all made that mistake, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Because you think about it, they try to recreate Al Perez and Wendell Cooley in Mid-South as the Rockefeller Express.
Yeah.
And then and Memphis decides, I know why we're not drawing. We don't have any Fabulous Ones. Let's make a couple. Crazy stuff. Paul Eubanks, I think one of the great announcers in professional wrestling, isn't he, Jack?
Sure is.
Hi, guys. Also, Ole teamed with Hanson and Morocco with Wahoo, led to Morocco's heel turn.
I remember that.
The Batten twins. Always liked it.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think they're. I know one of them passed away, but I guess the other one's still.
Yeah. The other one's on my Facebook. I talk to him every great now and then.
Ron Bass and Black Bart. Yeah. The Killer Bees. Jim Brunzell and Brian Blair. As you see the silence that is happening, I don't know.
My only thing about the Killer Bees was that McMahon did not take tag team wrestling seriously, and they were it was kind of comical. If you had put them out there as legitimate, straight up, hardworking baby faces, I think they would have gotten over better and be remembered better.
Hey, I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to go and look at this later on tonight. Jeremy said, check out the Fantastics in Japan in the early mid '90s, taking on the Bulldogs, the Malenkos. Is that Masawa?
Masawa, yeah.
I'm going to have to see that because I bet they're tremendous matches. Richard had said the Demolition. I just never liked the Demolition gimmick for some reason. I guess because I wanted to see Bill Eadie as the Masked Superstar. I think that might have been that. I think I'd rather see the Masked Superstars. At least it wouldn't have been a Road Warrior. Everybody wanted to have a road. Have you ever noticed everybody at that time wanted to have a Road Warrior?
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea. Rougeau brothers, tremendous tag team. Evidently, they will never be in the WWE Hall of Fame. They must have really, when they left, they must have really made some heat.
I don't know now. Now that The Rock and Triple H are, collaborating, they're really reaching back and getting some of those folks that Vince would never have put in.
You know what? Jock and Raymond deserved to be there. They did a great job. Yes. They wrestled good. They worked hard. Never had a bad match. Mm-hmm. Go back. The Rougeaus never had a bad match with anybody. And they understood, when we talk about the Steiners not understanding how to put someone over, the Rougeaus understood that for them to get over, they had to make their opponents look good.
Exactly.
And they understood that. And that's the reason I cannot ever put the Steiners in there. I never saw them put anybody over. I just didn't. I think the Nasty Boys was probably the might be the closest. I don't think the Nasty Boys were scared of.
No, they wouldn't. And they took what they needed from the Steiners because they were not afraid to get hit.
No. They had good matches. Mm-hmm. That's probably the only matches I've ever seen that they had that I thought was really good matches.
Yeah.
The East-West connection, Adrian Adonis for his in-ring and Jesse Ventura for talking. Oh, man, yes.
Yeah.
Jesse could do the talking. But, Adrian Adonis could do the talking, too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch were a good tag team. And the little vignettes that they did with them was just tremendous. And it set so you would know who Adrian Adonis was and you knew who Dick Murdoch was. I think eventually if they would have stayed, they would have probably had a feud together because they didn't really get along. I thought when Mean Gene Okerlund went with Adrian Adonis to go see Dick Murdoch in Texas, and he gets out of the car and he looks 4 ways. He says, well, everything looks the same here. There's nothing but cow poop and everything else around here. Where have you brought me, Gene? That was just tremendous stuff. And it's not the same stuff as today. It was meant to tell the story of who these two guys were, not just so they'll have comedy within the show. And Uncle Johnny Rougeau, yeah. I can already hear the conversation between his dad and John. Now, listen, son, we got a reputation to uphold here. Now, we can't just have you get beat up and nothing happen. And if Johnny Rougeau was now listen, this is what you need. I can already hear the conversation they had about knocking his teeth out. But that's old school wrestlers. I mean, that's your 60s and 50s wrestlers that would tell you that. Big Red and Bad Leroy Brown. I liked them as a tag team, but they were just there in a bad time.
Yeah.
They really had nobody to work against. Because you think about it, really the Super Destroyer and the Superstar, they had really kind of hurt Superstar there. And Super Destroyer really wasn't over. Really never got over in Atlanta. And it was just a bad time. Jeremy Richter, with Doug Furnas breaking into Continental, did you ever see him in Japan with Dan Crawford? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Never translated to the American audience, but they were amazing. Have y'all seen them?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen them. They really didn't have great verbal skills. I mean, I like Doug, but it was it. He would carry on the conversation in the back, but once he got in front of a microphone, he kind of couldn't follow through with stuff. And Dan Crawford was the same way. Great athletes, had some amazing matches, but in Japan, you don't have to do all the interviews and stuff to establish who you are the way we have to here in America. So, and they had a run in WWF at one time. I don't think it lasted very long, maybe a year or so.
Doc and
What you're
Gordy,
saying,
1992.
so basically, what Jack's saying is people with no personality can get over in Japan.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Bill and Scott Irwin. Bill
Yeah.
and Scott Irwin, yes.
Yeah.
And either way, I liked them as they were the Long Riders, right?
Yeah.
And the Super Destroyers. Which I thought the Super Destroyers was a better deal for them, but lots of great. Well, it coming up. Lots of great teams during those tag leagues in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Yes, and you can go back and watch stuff that you would never have been able to see, like Dusty Rhodes going against Hulk Hogan. Is there's a match in Japan where they wrestle each other. Mr. Fuji and Saito. I still think it's magnificent. The little old lady who get all upset, and I think this is Madison Square Garden, and it might have been in one of the other places. But boy, she'd get up there and wipe the salt out. He did that ceremony and threw the salt and everything. She'd get up there and get it out so he couldn't throw it in somebody's eye.
It was Philadelphia, wasn't it?
I believe it was the Spectrum.
I
always loved that.
She's not the one that hit him, was she?
Yeah, I think she would. Yes. What's so funny because they never got, they just let her do it. There was a lady in Chattanooga called the Pocket Lady, and she'd hit the people, and they never threw her out.
Pocket
Never.
Lady, yeah.
They told a story one time. Tojo Yamamoto told a story, and he said, "Listen, I went there, and he said what I was going to do is I was going to get close to her, and I was just going to give her, and I was going to let her hit me with a purse, and I was going to take a bump for her." And I was going to let the people pop. He said, what I didn't realize is she actually had a brick in that purse and it about knocked me out. He said, I was just laying there.
That was great the night that she hit Bill. Bill Dundee was in Chattanooga. When she hit him, you could hear that pocketbook all over the place. She hit him and Bill took this rolling thing. Because he said, watch this tonight. Watch this tonight. I'm going to let her hit me with the purse. He said, Dad said, I'm not sure if you want to do that. I'm not sure if you want to do that. She has a brick in there. He did it.
Because he says, I was there when Tojo got knocked out with his lady. And she was a whole lot younger at that point in time when she knocked
I love
Tojo
that.
for her. I grew up in the WWF territory and never liked it. Grew up with the WWF territory and never liked it. Paul and Joe LeDuc. Have y'all ever seen Paul LeDuc? I'm not for sure I have.
I believe they were Stampede, if I'm not mistaken. That right, Jimmy James?
Paul was the one.
I seen Joe LeDuc, Big Joe LeDuc, the Canadian lumberjack.
Yeah, I saw some kind of match from. It was on one of the old tapes I used to have, and they were. This was like late 50s, maybe early 60s. It was black and white, and they were a brawling type tag team. I don't even remember who they were going against, but for what it was entertaining. That's the only time I had ever seen Paul in a match.
Richard Lee Morgan, Tim Horner, and Brad Armstrong never really got a fair shot. No, Tim left right after they teamed him with. I probably got a check from Ole and decided that it wasn't a good payoff. I'm pretty sure of that because he left soon after they said they took the summer months off. AWA took the summer months off.
Okay.
So I knew they had took some portion of that time off. Stuart Kemp is with us. Stuart says Stampede Wrestling in Alberta. created some of the best talent to appear in WWF and worldwide. You could see many starting teams and established as well. Some great wrestlers come out of Stampede Wrestling. Let's see, Iceman, Richard Hood. I think we already did Iceman King Parsons and Brickhouse Brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
We already it was Iceman King Parsons and
yeah, you're right.
Chop Cash, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Iceman King Parsons, Brickhouse Brown, Ronnie Newsom said Jake Roberts. I'm not for Pez Wally, Tiger Conway Jr.
Yeah. Hey, Pez Wally and Ray Candy was a good team too.
Yeah, they threw some money in Chattanooga.
They really did. That was in the 70s though, right? Right. Well, a little bit in the 80s, a little bit at the first of the 80s there, because we were there. We'd been there with that.
I almost knocked Butch Reed off into
Let's not do that. Let's not Butch Reed off.
Gordy and Williams were awesome against
Masawa and Kawada.
Awesome match. I got to see some of them. I just never kept up with Japan wrestling. I just never.
Well, we didn't really have much of a way back then, unless we were, everybody was into tape trading.
Yeah, and I never did that. I know Jim Cornette did it. Were the Jayhawkers a pretty good team? Was that Bobby Jaggers and Dutch Mantel?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
They just Dutch left. I'm pretty sure Dutch left there before they really got
a really good team, and it was working out.
Elijah Akeem.
Elijah Akeem.
I was close. I mean, I guess I had the Elijah part right.
Sorry, guys. Richard is right again. It wasn't Brickhouse Brown. It was Rocky Johnson. The Soul Man, Rocky Johnson. The Strongbow brothers, Jules and Jay. They might have been all right then, but boy, I'm not a big fan. Joe Scarpa, always nice to Dad, always nice to us. Never, the man, he had the worst chop in the history of professional wrestling.
Well, you were comparing them to Wahoo's chops, and that's not.
This is true.
Comparison.
Buzz and Brett Sawyer, they were a good team.
Yeah.
They were very good. Joe, I don't know what we were talking about now. He said Joe. I'm thinking, I guess, maybe we're talking about Jody Hamilton, maybe. I'm not for sure.
Wow.
We talked about the Wild Samoans. Daniel Lang. It was Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen. Morocco was with Wahoo until Morocco turned on Wahoo.
And the belts were given to Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen. That was one of the things the Freebirds had told them. We won these belts. They were the national tag team champions. We won these belts. Those were gave to you. That's what Terry said to them.
Also said, Brunzell, Gagne were passable, but Blair, no. Every time I think of Brian Blair, though, and somebody put this on a comment, I always think of Iron Sheik just cutting that interview on them, or they call promo these days, about Brian Blair. I mean, have y'all ever heard it?
No, Brett, reenact that for us just for a second.
I can't even say what he tells them in there. He always wants to put people in the camel clutch and do things to them.
Hogan, put you in the clutch and I break you back.
He's always doing the gimmick. One time I'd listened to the Sheik and they were doing an interview of Hulk Hogan and the Sheik called in to Hulk Hogan and he was giving him all the way down he was telling him, let me tell you, he was telling Hogan everything about him. I think he was on the maybe the Howard Stern show. And he says, and this is what happened at the end of it. He says, hey, Sheik, I love you. He said, I love you too. After cussing him the whole time. He's always living that gimmick. Coco Beware, Norville Austin, yes, pretty young things I thought were great. Mr. Wrestling and Dino Bravo, World Tag Team Champions. Right. Jimmy James said, I agree, the Demolition didn't do it for me. I just didn't like that because I always thought it was Road Warriors. Just they did get over though. They did get over in WWE. I'm talking the Rougeaus in Montreal in the '80s.
Yeah, there's some tremendous stuff with the Rougeaus. I remember a match with Jock and Abdullah. Tremendous stuff, and of course the Rougeaus against the Garvins were also great matches.
Dory and Terry Funk.
Yep.
No, we don't. The entire Rougeau family should be inducted into the Hall.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I'll agree with that. Hey, it is. Happy birthday, Jack. It is Jack's birthday today.
Thank you.
Ole Anderson and Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yep.
Dusty Rhodes and the Gorilla. Hey, didn't they? I thought Dick Slater came out of there as the Gorilla.
He did.
But that never shown on television, did it?
It did. Yeah, it did. Well, he was already out of the suit, out of the gorilla suit. The camera missed it when he pulled the head off.
Oh, okay.
Exactly
I
right.
was thinking.
Yeah, you were exactly right. When they missed the cameras missed it because they were probably
Y'all
too
know,
busy shooting somebody.
anytime you pull somebody out of a box, big time money. Always big time money. And it really has been. It has really true.
Slater's been in the box many. Slater was in the box many times.
Yeah.
This must be his. That must have been his idea.
Sounds like you're watching a lot of Tuesday Night Titans. Oh, I loved, yes. I'll be honest with you. I like the Tuesday Night Titans. I would frontwards up the boring matches because they were horrible. I would frontwards them up, and we would tape Tuesday Night Titans, and we would tape those. It wasn't Tuesday. What was the show with Bobby Heenan and
Prime time
wrestling? We would take that. I think it came on Monday nights. And I would take it. I've got tape somewhere where I would take all the matches out, and I left all the Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon stuff in, because that's the reason I watched the show.
Sure.
Because they were so much better than the matches were. And that's sad, really, but they were. And I've got maybe 4 years of just their stuff. I think it's classic when they go Bobby Heenan, Gorilla Monsoon. They end up in an old West town, and they do their ins and outs from there. It's not the same. People say, "Well, that was comedy." It was a little different. Yeah. It was a different concept than what they do today. Lots of great tag teams. Was good for trying odd team. Buddy Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, Gordy and Rick Martel teamed once. Daniel Lang, Dusty. Let's see. Dusty changed Backlund. Challenged Backlund for the rep title in Japan, and Dusty turns heel about 20 minutes. Now Backlund can wrestle circles around me. Things could have been a lot different because, they were considering Steve Keirn to be the WWF Heavyweight Champion. That was the consideration at the time. Let's see, Stuart Kemp. That's what we miss is the old ringside rosies at arenas.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, those days were very missed. Wally McDaniel, Billy Jack Haynes. We're going to talk about this in a later episode. But Billy Jack's in some world of trouble, isn't he?
Big time.
Richard Hood, Doom. They were good. I never understood the gimmick. I
never understood the gimmick of why they put two of the most popular guys, or well-known guys anyway, under mask. But they were a tremendous tag team.
Ron Simmons was an All-American football player. People knew who he was.
Yeah.
And Butch Reed had been on television for years, and I never understood that. Right. I will never understand why they put a mask on.
May I say, I hate to interrupt anything and upset anybody, as you know. But the only reason they were a masked team is to give Kevin Sullivan's wife a job. Okay?
But could they had a job without
No,
with the
no, no,
mask off?
they first of all they tried to confuse people with the Doom thing with the mask, but this was all a vehicle, not to get them over, but get his wife over. Just saying.
Stuart killed Phil LaFon or Phil LaFleur. I guess that's how you would say that, Nick.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Wrestled as Dan Crawford in Japan with Doug Furtis. Sadly, exactly couldn't make it in U.S. Yet were solid. Surprisingly, they didn't even appear in ECW.
Well, when they did appear in the WWE, they were saying they kept yawning during the matches. The commentators did. This is exciting. I wonder if Doug Furnace will ever get excited about this. What if he what speed? I think that was Bobby Heenan. You don't remember that?
I don't know if I remember. For context,
yeah, they were yawning during the match.
Kawada
was a hybrid of Eaton and Ricky Morton in the ring.
Wow.
Kevin Barkwell. I'm not good with these names. French names are even worse. The match where Ole used Gene's head as a battering ram was a rematch for the Georgia Tag Team Championship against Wrestling 1 and 2, and Ole and Gene got the titles back.
Yeah.
Donnie Hester, the Warlord and the Barbarian. Buzz Avalanche Tyler and Bulldog Bob. Is that Bob Bulldog Brown?
Yep.
Donnie Hester said, "Happy birthday, Jack." Hall of Fame is always a crapshoot. They always want to highlight the ones who could be known by people today. They're putting Muhammad Ali in the deal. Did he do a lot with WWF?
Well, he was at that first WrestleMania.
That's right, he was.
Yeah, and that was one of the big deals that helped draw. There was a lot of people, look just to see what he was going to do. Because, see, he had already had the match with Antonio Inoki before that.
Did he have a match with? And I'm for whatever reason, I was thinking he also had a match with Gorilla Monsoon.
I think Gorilla hit the ring during an exhibition boxing match or something like that, and so they didn't really wrestle. But yeah, he got physical. I think he put Muhammad up in the airplane spin and dumped him.
Yeah, I think he did too.
Yeah.
Well, since he owned part of the company, he was not going to be doing the job for Muhammad Ali. Jimmy James said 85 years old and still going strong. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I feel like half my life is over with at 65.
Yes, happy birthday, sir. Yeah, they showed it at the top of the TBS broadcast. Take it off, then start brawling. Only showed a few weeks.
Yep. Yeah, the cameras missed the mask, the Gorilla's mask coming off. Missed it just as plain as day. They were probably shooting the crowd as they normally do.
Jerry Lawler, Jim White. Let's see. Guys, who was booked? Who was the booking? I think it was Kevin Sullivan. I'm pretty sure he was booking at that time. I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, I think so.
Because wouldn't it have been Kevin Sullivan, Jimmy Cornette? What did the booking committee? Ric Flair was even in that.
I think you're correct. And think about it is, remember, Woman was doing some deal with, it wasn't Rick Steiner, was it somebody else? She was dressed up, she had glasses and all that, and then she did the turn. And then next thing you know, she's managing Doom.
Did you guys ever hear that Bob Cook was offered the NW title but turned it down because of the work schedule? I could see that.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said.
Let's see. Sadly, one of the greatest tag specialists passed away in a wreck, and along with Tarzan Tyler, the late Pierre Médard Lefebvre. I didn't know that he passed away in a car accident.
Wow. I
really didn't. I always liked Pierre Lefebvre. He came to Atlanta. I think that was who that was.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the button. Come on, man. We don't ever get any button pushing. Very rarely do they like us. Let's see. I'm not for sure who Robin Green is.
That was the name of the with the glasses woman. had the glasses and stuff before she did the
Oh,
turn, and she had that whole thing where she was. Who was it? It wasn't. Was it Rick Steiner? Was it Rick Steiner that was doing the deal with, or was it Norman or one of those, the trucker Norman or whatever his name was? I can't remember which one it was.
now that was a tremendous
Honestly,
gimmick. Whoever
let me
decided
just be
to put
very
that.
honest. I didn't watch the show. It was just awful. The show was awful at the time. That was Cornette doing the thing with the what was it? The dilapidated dudes or whatever they were. It was painful to watch.
Richard has said that Robin was Rick Steiner's date.
Yes, right. Okay. Gotcha.
So Art and Zabisco, Dangerous Line. Yes, they would.
Yeah.
If you've not seen the match with Art and Larry Zabisco against Ricky Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes, I think Ricky Steamboat had just left WWF. He was on his way back, and man, they had a great match on television.
Yeah.
I'll put that up in another. Ricky Steamboat. People can say what they want to, but man, that man can work. All right, Rodney. Before we go, I want to thank
Kevin
everybody
has
for
very,
being a
I
part.
think, very poignant statement he'd like to make here, Kevin Barkwell, which I think consolidates Sting's career. Go ahead.
Oh, wait a minute now.
You read that right there.
All right, here we go. They should have showed footage of Dick Slater putting Sting's head in the toilet during his
Yes.
tribute.
That's
All right, Rodney. Last final comments, and then we'll.
Tony Richards had a very poignant comment as well. Let's let him have the final say, if you will.
All right. People always talk about 1989, but outside of Flair and Steamboat and Flair for programs, the year sucked.
Awful.
It did. It was a bad
terrible.
booking.
It was like it was Waffle House booking. It was scrambled. It was scattered, smothered, covered, scrambled, egged all over the place. Made no sense to nothing.
I think me and Jack would take. We think more of a Huddle House.
Okay,
We like the Waffle House, so I'm not for sure we are.
It just depends on what time of day you go to the Waffle House. You might have the same team that was booked in WCW.
I went to the Waffle House Saturday, as a matter of fact.
Fine.
I highly recommend
The one that I go
Carrot
to
Cake.
is a fine establishment, but I have been to some that you kind of wonder.
All right, Jack. Any closing comments before we leave?
Guys, we love what we do. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Don't forget about our Pro Wrestling Tee store. We're fixing to put a bunch of new designs up. So go over there. Give us Brent, a few weeks, I guess. But
Yes.
yeah, but we got a lot of stuff coming this year, and we're not just talking heads. We're actually putting stuff into motion. So more Brent than anybody. Rodney and I are just the lieutenants. We just take the commands from the general. But yeah, we got some good stuff. Trying to honor what was passed on to us. And
tradition.
yes.
Traditional
And
wrestling.
that's why all you folks come here, because y'all miss that every bit as much as we do.
And
Thank you,
Saturday,
sir.
April 6th, Hanceville, Alabama, at the Live Wire Arena. Everything you can go on to our Facebook page. You'll see it there. It's at the top of the page. But tickets are on sale right now. If you live in the Alabama area, we'd love to see you. If you like 70s and 80s wrestling, then you're going to enjoy the show on Saturday, April 6th. Rodney, final comments. And then
we need to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Virgil. Passed away, and we wished all the best to them. And they just seemed like we're losing them every day. And another one, Virgil.
All right, folks. Thank you so much.
And
Again,
Daniel,
we want to thank once again the folks at eMeet. They are partnering up with us on Saturday, April 6th. We'll be using these cameras along with some other cameras, but we want to thank the folks at eMeet for partnering with us. And you'll be seeing these cameras. I'm actually on one right now, and we want to thank them so much for allowing us to send these cameras to us for us to be able to use them and let you see what it is to use these cameras. Because you might want to buy them yourself. Thank y'all so much.
Did you know that Lynette was upset with his booking? Now he knows how he knows how Triple H feels about his work. Maybe he'll stop calling spots out in the middle. I think Gunther did it the other night too.
Hey, my earpiece fell out now. That one.
That's it. We'll save the rest for next week. Ricochet did some tremendous work this past week too.
We will talk about all that next week right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. I think we've been on here for about an hour and a half. I think so. We miss a week and we just stay on a little too long. I think.
Yeah,
Thank y'all so much.
When you stay on too long, it causes Cody to bust into tears.
Oh, before I cry, we'll see you next week right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now.